I'm Marta.
And I'm Diliana.
We are currently recording from our living room sofa, which for the record is the only soft thing about this podcast.
Because while our pillows are velvet, our stories are pure violence. So put your feet up, lock your doors, and try not to judge our life choices. This is Velvet Violence.
Hi guys, I just wanted to pop on here and tell you that we are not licensed investigators or lawyers. We're just here telling a true story in our own dramatic way. Everything is based on a publicly available information and personal commentary. So please, don't come after us. We've watched enough true crime to know how that ends. Imagine believing that Earth isn't your real home, that you're simply waiting to be collected. That somewhere beyond our skies, a spacecraft is coming, and only a chosen few will be allowed to leave. This is exactly what dozens of people believed in the 90s, all because of one man, Marshall Applewhite. March 1997, Rancho Santa Fe, California. Inside the palatial mansion, authorities find 39 people dressed in identical clothing and brand new sneakers, lying peacefully on their bunk beds. They weren't victims of typical tragedy. They were graduating. They believed they were leaving their earthy containers to board a spacecraft hiding behind a Hale-Bopp comet. How does an ordinary man, a music teacher, convince dozens of intelligent people that the spacecraft is waiting behind a comet? What makes someone leave their family, their home, their entire life behind for a belief that most people would dismiss instantly? And the most unsettling question of all, if you had met Marshall Applewhite, listened to him speak, and heard his promises about the next level, would you believe him or would you walk away? Today, we're looking at how Marshall Applewhite became the leader of the most infamous UFO cult in American history.
What the actual fuck?
Yeah.
I just could not believe what did you just say. Was he always that extreme? Like 39 people. Tell me about him.
No, he wasn't, not at all. He wasn't that extreme at the beginning, so which makes this story so unsettling, I guess. But Marshall Applewhite, he was born in Texas in 1931. His father was a Presbyterian minister, so he grew up around religion from a very young age. By most accounts, he was very quiet, polite, and very interested in music. He had a wife, Ann Pierce, and they had 2 children. So in around 1954, he served in Austria and New Mexico, but in 1956 he left army and wanted to become a music teacher and choir director. He worked at universities and schools, and people describe him as intelligent, but a little bit intense. But so far you can't tell that this guy gonna run a massive cult, most infamous cult. His work colleague said that no one called him Marshall, they called him Doe. In fact, he was actually getting slightly annoyed when people called him by his name. He said that Doe was fantastic music teacher and natural performer. However, he had an affair with a male student.
He was gay?
Yes. So the wife decided to divorce him. So his marriage broke down. His father was very disappointed by him. They are from a very religious family, and his son cheated with a male. Right? So Applewhite started struggling with his identity and mental health. He had severe nervous breakdown then, and that period of crisis is where everything began to change.
How do you actually go from being that normal family guy and music teacher to being a cult leader of UFO cult.
When he had the mental breakdown, Applewhite ended up in psychiatric hospital when he met a woman called Bonnie Nettles in the early 1970s. She worked as a nurse, but she was deeply interested in astrology, mysticism, and spiritual ideas about the world. There is a video of Terry, her daughter, saying that she loved meditation, she loved crystals, and she was UFO obsessed. They often talked about UFO in general, about UFO picking them up, because they didn't believe that they belonged on Earth. Basically, they looked at the sky, they looked at the stars, they were moving, and they were dreaming about how nice it would be for a UFO to pick them up.
Like a taxi.
When Terry was 19, her mom got divorced as things didn't really went well in the house. And then when Bonnie and Nettles met, they formed a very intense partnership. Nettles didn't just treat him, she validated him. She told him that his feelings of not belonging on Earth weren't a mental health crisis. They were a sign that he was literally from another world. And over time, his worldview shifted from traditional Christianity into something far more, cosmic and apocalyptic. Together, they started developing their belief that they were a special messengers sent from a higher civilization. They became very close, however, never romantic, but they lived together. I think, though, that she was the controller. She basically was saying him what to do and he just followed her rules. Eventually, Applewhite and Nettles became the two. That's how they called themselves. And in 1972, they started wandering across the US, recruiting followers with a strange belief of Christian theology and science fiction. Apparently, they became very obsessed with Star Wars and Star Trek, even though later on says that Star Trek is sending them a special messages from the TV of how they're supposed to act, and what they're supposed to do. In July 1973, they were traveling for over a year, recruiting people. They found an answer of what they're going to do. They said that the only way to survive was evolve from a higher form of life, what they called the next level, which they believed existed in space.
I just can't believe this shit. And people actually did join them?
Yep.
Why would you join them?
They did.
I don't understand.
They did. And surprisingly, actually quite a lot of people joined in, but it didn't happen all at once. Applewhite and Nettles built it very slowly. They had a new name. They started calling themselves Doe and T. I'm gonna use those names quite often, just put it out there. Basically, they rented a small conference room in a motel. Surprisingly, close to 200 people showed up. T and Doe appeared on the stage and started to teach people how to get to the next level. Apparently, Doe was absolutely mesmerizing. People who listened to him compared him to God. They said that he was like a Jesus, appearing on a stage, spreading the good message. They talked about the evolutionary level above human, which is a literal physical place in space. Followers believed everything they say. They said that when they speak to them, it was like euphoria. It was just something mesmerizing. They presented themselves almost like a teacher preparing student for a transformation. Bear in mind, he was a music teacher. Like his colleague from work said, he was a natural performer. So he knew how to talk to people. And he knew the way to push your buttons to the point that you will believe me what I'm saying. He basically controlled their minds at very, very early stage. So remember, guys, we are back in 70s. It was a massive era of hippies. TV, news, and everywhere were talking about planets, about conspiracy theories, about UFO. They all seeked something, but they just didn't know what they wanted. People then were very interested in spirituality, meditation, and they took a lot of LSD. Okay.
It reminds me of Woodstock.
Yes, yeah, literally. That's what was in my head when I prepared for it. Just wanted to belong somewhere.
Yeah, peace and love. And
exactly. Yeah. And there is Doe and Ty coming out on a stage, being very mesmerizing, basically told them what they want to listen. So there was no social media. There was just, whatever they've heard on the news, they believed it. And yeah, it was a lot of propaganda back then, unfortunately. Well, there still is, to these days, but not as much. But because of that, T and O actually lured them in. Loads of Christians then believe that the world will end. So the only way to survive is to leave the ship with Heaven's Gate. So the funny thing, guys, Doe actually was telling them that spacecraft is a real thing because he had big enough telescope that he could see God from space. I think this bloke fucking took acid or whatever hard drugs.
Definitely. No. Who comes up with shit like this?
I know. It's just crazy. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, it's just... I found an interview from one of his first followers. His name is Dick Jocelyn, and he said that they just had this an amazing aura in them. It was a breath of fresh air. You're struggling with your identity and belonging, and there is T and O, tells you that you cannot die. You cannot just die and go to heaven, right? The level you're gonna get is only through Heaven's Gate, and they are not here to convince you. But he felt that they telling you the truth. They told him the truth.
It was all those people then following T and O.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about their families? Didn't they start worrying about them and thinking where they are, what they're doing, what's happening?
Yeah, they absolutely did. But police was constantly receiving reports about people being missing from family members. They knew that they joined the cult because they saw flyers. Apparently, those flyers were absolutely everywhere. The police received reports that 34 people disappeared. However, all of them were adults, so they couldn't really do anything.
Yeah.
They left with their own will. Eventually, after continuous cult meetings, additional 15 to 20 people went missing, and media started talking about it. The cult started getting popular. Literally, it was everywhere. Media, worried family members, posters, police. However, no one could find them because Doe tell them that they need to separate in groups, bring their camping gear, and they just need to live somewhere in the canyons. But in 1975, sociologists got very interested when 20 people went missing. It was in Oregon, and he wanted to find out more about it. But how is he going to do it, right? The only option is to join them. He was actually writing an article to the paper called Psychology Today. You can actually see that article. It's still online. He decided to basically go undercover. He spoke with his mate. His name was David, and they came up with an idea that they're gonna contact Heaven's Gate and they will try to join the cult. Cult member told them that they need to go to Oakland, find the post office, and they will leave a message on page 100 on the zip code book. And guess what? They actually went there and they found a message saying, meet us at the top of Mount Diablo mountain. So David and his mate arrived there. However, there was no one in. They did find some notes in a bin, which they basically thought, fuck, we've missed them. They already been there, we are late, whatever. Out of the nowhere, 2 cars popped up. It was the Heaven's Gate cult. And they literally took them in.
So freaking weird, man.
2 cars pull up, members took them, and they gone. David and his mates were making notes on their little scrapbooks because they wanted to record as much as possible, yeah. What they found, which is very interesting, they basically had no authority structure. Members need to be focused on their own beliefs. They didn't really have much instruction, which was slightly, chaotic compared to the other cults. You see Manson cult, for example. Whatever Manson said, they did. They were very harsh. In regards to this religion, they literally, Yeah, they just had two meetings a day. The meetings they had were more the followers' meetings. Dee and To weren't there that often. However, in one of those meetings, they gave them a metal forks. Well, it looked like a fork. It was just like a U-shaped metal bead, and told them that they need to go outside, put it on their foreheads, and try to get connected with UFO.
There's your antenna. Go. You go.
Yeah, it was like antenna.
Oh my god, I can't believe this shit.
The followers were very unique. Okay, so they, like I've mentioned at the beginning, they were very intelligent. It's because cult doesn't want stupid people, right? They want a very intelligent and clever ones. They had no authority from Do and Tai. They were just no manipulation, no brainwashing. All the followers, they were going door to door, spreading a message, and eventually to go to the point that those sociologists said, we had enough, we had enough information, so they managed to leave, they managed to escape from that cult.
So they didn't have actually any rules to be there, or there was nothing that he was making them to do or anything like this?
Actually, they had quite few rules, and they were quite strict rules. First, the most important rule was absolutely disconnect with family. Some of the followers had children. They had to leave those children behind. No visiting family literally that was like the worst break, they couldn't visit their family. So the only family you've got is the Heaven's Gate. There is a story about a daughter who their family members left to the court. It was their her mother and father. She was around 10 years old. They literally sat her down and they told her that they're leaving because there is a UFO spacecraft ship waiting for them to be collected. Sorry, we're gonna leave you with my parents, with the mother parents, and they left.
Children are not allowed there?
No, you must be 18 over. So at least that's a good thing, I guess. The daughter's grandparents were trying to talk sense to them, just like, well, if you're gonna leave right now, you're never gonna be able to have contact with your daughter and with us. We completely cutting you off, trying to talk sense to them, but they just said that's fine, and they left. No remorse whatsoever.
Don't get me wrong, I know that you said they were all intelligent people there and stuff, but what the fuck?
I know.
It's like, I get like some people have very different beliefs than we do or I do, but I just think like, in the end of the day, family is family. Especially if they haven't fucked up in any way.
Yeah.
For you just to leave them, to me that's wrong. Like,
It is. However, you need to remember that you're being separate with outside world completely. Human relationships kept people tight on Earth. They need to leave. They've got a special mission. The world will end. They need to leave. It's crazy because if you don't care about your child, the world's gonna end, and you don't care about your child. So you might as well just leave him.
Yeah, but I can imagine
crazy.
They think we can make more children, but we cannot catch another taxi UFO.
That's actually quite a good answer you said. However, they weren't allowed to have any sexual doing. They couldn't even masturbate. Applewhite told them that they need to castrate. Majority of them apparently went to Mexico for a job. When you joined with your husband or when you joined with your wife, you weren't allowed to have any sexual relationship or any romantic relationship whatsoever. And that was one of the most stricted rules. Another strict rule was the uniform appearance. They had to have similar clothes, short and simple haircut. They all had to have the same colored shirts. Applewhite wanted to remove their ego from the identity. What's interesting also, they gave them new names. So all the names had to finish at Ody, O-D-Y. So they took the first letter of their name and the first letter of their surname with the ending Ody. With you, it would be what?
Diviodi.
Diviodi, there you go. You can be a member of that cult.
No, thank you.
They also had a strict daily structure. They had loads of group tasks, they're studying Applewhite teachings, and they had loads of meditation and self-defense classes, self-discipline classes, and they had to basically following the instructions to the dot. For example, when they were making pancakes, each pancake had to be in identical shape and identical look. Everything had to be to a dot.
Can't even make two pancakes identical.
I guess they just wanted to make this perfect group of people, you know, because it's just next level. They getting ready to go on a spacecraft ship to to leave the Earth.
What the fuck, man? I just can't believe that those words are coming out of your mouth. But that was well and good, I guess. But you said in the 90s, actually, it's when shit went down, yeah?
Yeah.
And what happened actually in the 90s?
In 1983, Bonnie Nettles had a cancer, and she had an eye cancer, which had to be removed. So she eventually removed her whole eye. A few years after that, it was 19th of June 1985, she passed away. However, we're talking about the Ento, who's the god of the god. So how the fuck she managed to die? Do you know what I mean? You know, people started losing that belief now because she's supposed to move to the next level with them. Why did she die? But you know, Applewhite, with his brainwashing skills, he reinterpreted it. He told the group she had successfully reached the next level. Just not the way they were originally thinking. Her body had simply been a vehicle. At the beginning, I've mentioned that word, that the bodies were vehicles. That's what Applewhite were telling them. So he told them that your body basically is just a piece of clothing that you're gonna take off eventually when you reach the next level. Not everyone, but this is a possibility. After that, obviously, he started losing those followers. They were all in love with him and all in love with the idea that, okay, you know, that the world's gonna end. You are prepping for it. Guys, this is crazy, but they were prepping for it for 22 years. It didn't happen overnight. It was 22 years they were prepping for the mission, what they're gonna do. At the end of this story, but at the beginning when I've mentioned. You know, he started thinking about it. Okay, fuck, I need to do something to keep them in. He said, okay, this is a very, very bad time. Obviously, Bonnie died, but she didn't really die. She's still with me. She still tells me what I need to tell them, what message I need to spread them. In fact, I'm even closer to UFO because she's there and she's telling me what aliens basically telling me. So you need to believe me more. Remember I said about those strict rules that first of all, like one of the most important ones was not to visit family members. But in that time, because he saw that people starting losing hope, he said, okay, I'm gonna make an exception now and I will allow you to go and visit your families. But you can't tell them about the cult and you can't tell them about the mission. So you need to tell them that you're working as a computer scientist kind of way for like a Christian church. The family members, first of all, were like, what the fuck, you know? My son went missing for 10 years and he's just appearing out of nowhere. They thought, first of all, they're never gonna show up. Second of all, if they will show up, there will be some sort of crackheads and, you know, brainwashed, exactly, troubled people. But it was totally opposite. They were very clean, they were very polite, they still, you know, had an amazing aura behind them. Family members didn't really, you know, try to stop them in, because you lost your family member 10 years ago, let's say, and it's just appeared. So they didn't think about, okay, you need to stay in, you know. They just welcomed them, they made food, you know, they spent time with family. Eventually, after a few days, they got back to Heaven's Gate. Only one person actually stayed with the family. From that point on, the belief shifted, okay? So followers began to think they may also need to leave their physical bodies behind to reach the next stage. They actually had 4 methods to graduate. I'm gonna read it now. First one was physical pickup. Basically, get the transport to the craft. Aliens would come and collect them. The second one was natural death or accidental death or death from the random violence. This one covers the Nettle. death, okay? Before it was just, yes, we're all gonna prep for it, we're just gonna graduate. Now you've got 4 methods. The third one was outside prosecution that led to death. They were worried that American government could murder people because of that cult, because obviously how infamous it became. And lastly was willful exit from the body on dignified matter, which is basically like a Jesus.
You mentioned that at some point some comet appeared, so what happened then?
In 1997, a very bright comet called Hale-Bopp became visible from Earth. When astronomers discovered the comet, its brightness and long period orbit captivated the world. Applewhite basically saw it as a sign, a marker that a hidden spaceship was approaching the Earth. So that was the point when he said that Nettles is there and, she guides him from Earth. So that comet will change their lives. They are getting closer, so we need to get prepared. At that point, it went more biblical. Because he started talking about anarchists on Earth, when they need to avoid. So from all earthy spacecraft aliens, it just went more religious. It just became crazy. To his followers, it wasn't just a spacecraft. It was a literal rescue ship traveling from space to collect them. And that's what Applewhite was saying to them constantly. But there was one condition. To board it, they need to leave their human bodies behind.
What did he tell them actually? Did they have to die immediately, pretty much?
Not immediately. It happened gradually, which it just makes it so chilling, right? So first, Applewhite began releasing videos to his followers and to the public. In those videos, you can find that he's talking about the Earth, about reaching the next level, and the comet is a massive sign that they need to join. He described that the bodies are only vehicles and they just temporary containers for your soul. Step by step, he started preparing the group of the idea that leaving their bodies wasn't just something to fear. In fact, it was just something very exciting, like, graduating to the next stage of existence. The group started making proper preparations for it. So they rented the house, what I've mentioned at the beginning. It was the house in Rancho Santa Fe, California. They paid over $7,000 a month in cash to stay there.
When did they get all those money from?
It was from all the inheritance money, pretty much. They also took some odd jobs just to keep them going. So whatever money they had, every penny was put towards Heaven's Gate. They also recorded goodbye videos. Some members even wrote farewell letters to their families. Imagine, you're receiving a letter basically saying, "Hi guys, I'm ready now. I'm gonna leave the Earth soon. Good luck."
Crazy. And what were those goodbye videos that you just said?
It's crazy. Each member basically sat in front of the camera. They were very happy and they were very excited. They spread the message. They're like, "Yeah, fuck, we prepped for 22 years. We are ready to leave this Earth. We are ready to leave this planet. We are just very, very happy." It was crazy. I know we laughed at the beginning of this video, and I bet you guys will too, because it's just so crazy to think
It's
that
unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But on those videos, they were truly, truly happy. Many of them thanked Applewhite for guarding them, because if they wouldn't meet Applewhite or Nettles, they would never knew that there is just a next level, right? The world gonna end, so there is a couple of people, and eventually Doe himself, when Nettles passed away, that are preparing you for it. So, in their minds, I guess it was just like, fuck, this guy is awesome. He's doing it with us. it's just, I guess it's just very disturbing how they seem. You know, they talked about it's like it's just going away for a trip to Spain. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I guess in their heads it was like that. Actually, you're going to some better place than the Earth, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they smile, they laugh, they even make jokes with each other. It was just a normal thing. It was the next step to do.
Yeah.
To them, it wasn't just end of their lives. They genuinely believe that there is a spacecraft waiting behind that comet to collect them. And yeah, pretty much this belief made everything that follow, you know, feel to them completely logical.
I don't even want to ask this question, but what actually happened on the day of their deaths?
In 1997, in March, the group carried a plan in stages. As mentioned, they were preparing it for so many years. So they believe they need to leave their bodies peacefully, so their souls could travel to a spacecraft. Applewhite told them to separate in groups. Each of the group went to the bathroom. He told them to mix poison with Applewhite sauce or some sort of pudding and have a shot of vodka. I've got it written down. It's phenobarbital medication. I'm not quite sure what that is. But after that, they peacefully just lie on the mattresses. So they were all in bunk beds on mattresses on the floor. And each of them had a $5 bill and some change. Because they believe they need to pass this money to aliens when they enter the next level.
Fucking nothing is free, man.
At that stage, they were in around 26 to 78 years old. So after each group died, the remaining members would carefully arrange the bodies. They put a purple cloth on their faces and on their torso. Everyone wore their same clothes. So they all had black shirts, black trousers, and identical Nikes. So there were Nike Decade sneakers, black sneakers with white Nike's logo. Side note, guys, back in 2008, actually Nike's wanted to release a new sneakers dedicated to Heaven's Gate. Yeah, but luckily the idea got cancelled.
Of course, as it should.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm surprised they even thought about it, you know?
Even if it was with good intentions, I think it's still wrong.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to make money out of them, you know, because it was just so popular at the time. But yeah, eventually few members left, including Applewhite himself, and they completed the same process. 39 people died in total.
I can't believe this. That's so many people.
Yeah.
That they lost their life just for nothing. And
They did.
who discovered them, first of all, and how long did it take for them to be discovered?
After a few days later, a former member of the group received a package. Inside was a videotape of them explaining that they successfully reached the next level. He obviously was alarmed. He contacted the authorities, and when police entered the house in Rancho Santa Fe, they found the bodies lying neatly in the rooms. We've got pictures of that, which we're gonna post on our group. Please do join us. We'll post links later. We're not gonna put it out here on a screen. It's just way too disturbing. After that, guys, it was even stranger because the investigators find a video recordings of the group before they died. In those videos, the members were calm, very happy, and some of them smile and talk about how excited they were. I've mentioned those videos earlier when you asked me a question. That's how we know about it, yeah? So police obviously find all those happy videos of them. They didn't believe they were dying. They believed they were going home. However, guys, the story didn't end there. In the weeks and months after, former members were really struggling with their identity. They were very sad. They didn't join it till the end. And unfortunately, some of the former members actually commit suicide.
Oh my god. So even more people died. I just can't believe a person can control so many people, brainwash them. Because they were brainwashed.
They were brainwashed. And what I wanted to also mention, guys, they had a website. It's very old school 90s website. And you're not gonna believe it, but this website is still online. But I will show you, Diliana. I'm just very surprised because someone needs to still pay for the domain of this website. So it's still there.
Do you reckon someone is still actually doing this shit?
I believe so, because you pay for the domain. If no one pays for your domain online, someone is gonna buy your name.
I just can't believe it.
But I've got a question for you, though. Yes, it's a mind fuck. But do you think that Applewhite actually believed of what he's saying?
I think she made him believe. I'm not saying he was right for what he did, but I think he was as brainwashed as all the other people. And I think it all started with her.
Yeah, definitely.
And he just ended it. I just feel so bad for people's families.
There was a family member of a guy who actually left the cult when he was 18 years old. The mother started to do some investigation group trying to find the cult, and they were very good in progressing, trying to find them, but because they moved so much, it was even harder and harder all the time. But she was looking for her son for 10 years, and this poor bloke actually appeared, out of nowhere, came to say hello, came for a coffee. He just left a few days after. I'm very fascinated in cults. It's so interesting for one person to control minds of others. You already heard about the Pazuzu case, but in that case, they were all drunk and, under influence. But here, they were sober, they didn't drink. They were educated people with careers, with families. And out of the blue, those two people just coming out on a screen and spreading UFO notes. There is a comet, and come on, there is a spacecraft ship.
That reminds me of a post on Facebook I've seen many times, like that religion killed many more people than cigarettes did, or cancer.
Yeah.
It's like, that just shows you. And I'm not saying there's something wrong with being religious, but anything that you take to extreme, it's not gonna be good.
Looking at it now, I just think that they died happy. As bad as that everything was. There was no abuse, and people were spreading the good message, and on those videos you truly see them happy. As bad as this case is, they actually died happy. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know how we're doing. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye! So they talked about the evolutionary level.
Evolutionary.
So they talked about the evolutionary. Say that again.
Evolutionary.
1997, a very bright comet appeared called... So in 1997, a very bright comet appeared called Hellboop comet.